I'm going to ask a few questions to Mia, and then we can open it up to the audience. Mia, thank you so much for being with us for the festival. We've played all your film here, and you have a very loyal audience, as well as everyone here loves having you back and talking about your film and the process in which you work. So there's one thing that I find interesting in your cinema and in the way you talk about it. I find you a remarkable writer. I love the way you put your script together and you define the characters. But it seems that for you writing is difficult. And I think also about Bergman Island, where someone was sort of playing a version of you. The writing process seemed to be something very difficult, and it reflected on you. Can you talk about, as a director with intense emotional story to share, why, and that you make it sound and look very easy to write? And can you talk a little bit about the process for writing and why it takes you so much internally?
Well, actually, strangely, I think Bergman Island, which, as you mentioned, was dealing with the difficulty of writing, as a script, Bergman Island was the easiest film to write, which is kind of weird to me. But maybe because it was dealing with inspiration and how difficult writing is, it felt like the easiest one. But apart from that, it's true that writing was never an easy process for me, although I must say that it was always easier for me to write scripts than to write anything else. Like, for instance, sometimes people remember me, tell me that I was a film critic, but I don't think I ever was. I mean, it took me so long to write a single film review, and after that it needed to be rewritten anyway. I mean, I really struggled, and I wasn't happy with the result. I always felt like it didn't really express precisely enough what I was trying to say. And so, I mean, writing scripts isn't easy, but it's still the one way to express myself that I found where I'm kind of at home still. And not because I'm proud of what I write, but just because I know it's just a moment, and then it's nothing really. I mean, it's words and it's lines, but it will become something only when I turn it into a film, and maybe knowing that it's not the final thing, you know, maybe that helps me desacralize. I don't know if we can say that in English. Somebody, yes. French?
Yeah. You accept? Okay.
It's less it's less important, but it is important. And the other thing is that maybe because it is difficult, or also because so many of the directors who I admire and who have influenced my work have been writers of the scripts. I do give a lot of importance. I mean, it's very important to me that I keep on writing my own scripts. That's something I really stick to. I've written all of my scripts alone, except for one that I wrote together with my brother. And I think, you know, that's one thing that I love so much about making film is the variety of moments that it lets you experience. Like, when you write, it's just you, or in my case, it's just me. And then there is this collective moment of the shooting, and then the editing. It's two of us, and each stage is very different. So there is a richness, a variety of experiences, and I love that thing about it. But I do think that the solitude, the loneliness of the writing is crucial. At least it is for me, because it's the one moment where I really face my feelings and what I have to say. It's the moment where I go deep inside, and I think all the rest that comes afterwards depends on my ability to confront that solitude at first, you know. So even if sometimes it is difficult and it's sometimes painful, and it's never like I never wrote like that, you know, like I imagine some maybe doom, but I want to keep on writing. It's something that means a lot to me.
Thank you. When you wrote this one, did you imagine the characters with specific actors? Because usually I think it comes later in the casting process. So I remember you said that you were thinking of Isabelle Huppert in Things to Come, and the character that plays a version of you here is also an actress that's played by Léa Seydoux, that's really a remarkable actress. But it's hard to imagine her in this daily life in general. She plays always extraordinary characters. She does James Bond. And to have her like interpret like someone with a sort of regular life dealing with love and disappearance of a parent, it's a very different type of role for her. And it's something I think would come very early in the process to put her in this. And the rest of the cast also is amazing. Pascal Greggory is giving a really incredible performance also, and it's certainly not something easy.
Well, I wrote, just as for Things to Come with Isabelle Huppert, I did write the script with them in mind, the 4 main actors, including the Nicole Garcia as the mother, actually. It was the first time since I was writing that I had so many actors in mind from the start. I think it helped me to find, maybe to overcome some inhibitions that I could have had, considering the fact that it was a story that was so close to my own experience, and the fact that I would have these actors in mind and think of the kind of magnetism, or you know, how much they could bring fiction into the film, but also truth. That helped me believe in that process and forgetting the fact that it was so close, that, like bringing the right distance somehow. And yes, Léa Seydoux, I had admired her for a long time. It's true that she's been in many films. I mean, James Bond is just one of the films that she's been in, but actually she's been in many films, I mean, in the art house cinema world.
Less and less. She started.
Well, yes,
but
like
she did many films.
Bruno Dumont, Arnaud Desplechin. I mean, but she was mainly in the last years, at least, she was filmed in characters which were very sophisticated, they were all very different from one another, but still all of them had in common the thing that they were very like glamorous. She would wear like fancy clothes, she had a look, you know, like she was obviously filmed by men, you know. And that's fine with me. I mean, her characters were great, but it's just that I thought it was actually interesting, I don't know about her, but for me to see her in a different role, where, yes, it was more simple, she was less sophisticated, it was more about her watching men and listening to them, and not only being, you know, an object of desire, but I thought maybe the fact that it is different will make it interesting for her. That's something, unfortunately, we cannot ask her because she's not here, but I've heard her say the other day that it was kind of exotic for her to play like a normal woman, you know. Which is fine with me. I mean.
Yeah, but the cast is wonderful, and I think also Nicole Garcia brings a very good lightness to the story because she interacts with practicality, and she's I really like her in general.
Well, I was told sometimes that character is a bit like brutal of the mother because she's less sentimental. She's fine with getting rid of the books, but to me, I mean, I usually like all the characters in my film, otherwise I cannot really film them, but what I like about her is that she brings, I mean, a sense of humor and some energy in these dramatic moments, and I think when you leave these moments, you're actually very grateful towards the people who can bring that. And she's here a lot. I mean, she and Pascal Greggory's character, Georg, they are divorced, so she could just like not take care of it and just let the daughters, you know, because she has another life. And the fact that she's there and that she's actually taking care of, you know, helping with all the process makes her very sympathetic for me.
And perfect casting for Melvil Poupaud, obviously. He's a very good impersonation of the ideal partner.
Nice to hear.
I think he knows.
I agree. Well, I had seen him, maybe some of you who know maybe the work of Eric Romer, remember him in Conte d'été. I'm not sure about the English title.
Tale of Summer, or Summer Tale.
Yeah, Tale of Summer.
No, it's Summer, it's just Summer.
Summer.
Summer Tale. Oh, yeah, Summer is greenery.
And he's been in many films since, of course, but I guess that part of him where he was that stays with me when I think of him. It's very powerful. It's not only because I love the films of Eric Romer, but I really like his presence in that film a lot. And there is an ingenuité. Sorry. Thank you.
We knew you would all participate.
I mean, I find him very graceful and also very sober, restrained. You know, in his way of acting is something that I'm very sensitive to.
There's also one more thing I'd like to discuss with you. It's like you always or nearly always work on film, and this film was shot on 35mm, and you worked with Denis Lenoir, and it brings a lot of luminosity and a lot of light to something that it's not extremely a glamorous setting, you know, retirement home, and it's not the nicest aspect of Paris or the suburb. And it really brings a really important contrast with what you're talking about, what we're seeing, but the way you're showing it. And I wanted to talk to you about the importance of bringing this sort of also like texture print for working today on film, and how important it is for you.
Yeah. Well, yes, the only film that I shot that wasn't on film was Eden, the film that I made about electronic music, and for that film it was simply impossible because we would make like takes that would go on for like 1 hour, or like very, very long takes, so it didn't really make sense. But apart from that, I always wanted to shoot on film. To me, it's really like the one, le support material.
Like the material support? Yes.
That I feel comfortable with. It's not I mean, there's nothing really judgmental about it, because there are so many films that are shot digitally that I love. But just as a director, like I always have like a huge anxiety when it comes to the preparation of the film, and I know there will be that discussion with the producers about what about not doing that film on film, you know? And each time I find there is a good reason to do that specific film on film, you know? And for that film, well, so we came to the moment where we had that discussion, of course, and so they said, well, Bergman Island, you know, you would film the landscapes, Sweden, it's the summer, Bergman, you know, you had to do it on film. But this film, you know, hospitals, you know, nursing homes, who cares, you know? No, but like they wouldn't be saying it this way, but you know what I mean. Like they thought maybe it's less important to have that kind of charm, of quality, and I said, well, it's the opposite, you know. It's not because we're gonna shoot on like depressing places and places that lack poetry that we should not look for it. It's almost, I would say, to me, it's the opposite. It's it makes even more sense. I wouldn't say that, because Bergman Island, I couldn't imagine not doing it on film either. But for other reasons, I would say, well, I want to find the beauty there too, you know, and But at the end, I'm glad I could do it my way. It's just, it's just like, painters, they have the material that they feel at ease with. It's like an extension of who they are, or they feel it expresses. It's the way they can find the right colors, the right expressions of themselves, and it's this. I mean, it's the same with me about film. Like I guess there is something about the warmth, the softness, but also the way it expresses movement. It's not the same, because it's one image after the other. And even though as a spectator, I'm not even. I don't necessarily always know how it was shot, but as a director, I know, and I feel the difference, in the way it shows the movement. And I think it brings a slight distance to reality, and maybe because my films are so close to reality, I need that distance even more. I need to create that distance, and that it's like also to me, film has a soul that I can't find in digital. I mean, there are thousands of reasons, and I could continue like this, but I think you got me. I prefer film. I mean,
I think it was a very convincing speech for the next film too, and if any producers are here, the next one will probably be on film. We're going to take one or two audience questions before we wrap up.
Always when there's questions from the selection committee, etc., I think there's always talk about the technical aspect of the movie. But as your audience, I'm Mexican, you're French, and you have no idea how much your movie touched me. And I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, there's someone here with a blue shirt.
Thank you so much for your wonderful work as well. I was wondering, when you presented it, you said this film was sort of a need to you. You had a need to make it. That's what I understood. What did you mean with that? And do you feel, or now that you've done it, do you feel you fulfilled this need?
Well, actually, yes. Although you never quite find what you're looking for, you always, I think films are always a quest for, answers that cannot be found. They are a quest for meaning, but it does help. I mean, at the end, I feel I need to. You're never really fulfilled, as you said, and it's good maybe that you're not, because that's what makes you want to make one more try, But in a way, I could say I was never as close to what I never felt as much what catharsis means as by doing that film. I think. Catharsism.
We are making so much progress today.
The film was inspired by my father's disease, but not only about that. It was actually inspired by a grief, but also a strange grief, because he was still there when I wrote the film, but he was very sick, and he died just after. But I knew he wasn't going to be there for a long time anymore, So I was getting ready, something like that, and I wanted to keep his presence somehow with me longer. And I think the film was also inspired by some kind of rebirth, like something as deep, but that has to do with happiness too. But they were both, I mean. And I experienced that simultaneity of very opposite feelings. And what made me, well, there was just this intimate need that I told you about earlier, but also what made me also want to make that film is that I thought, well, in films, most of the time, people tell you about one thing, Usually they would make a film about, the disease or about the love story, but here it's both. And it's not both because I wanted it like in an artificial way, but it's both because that's my experience of life. And I was interested in trying to capture that and find a form for the cinematographic form for that. And I think it's how this is how films happen for me. It's when at some point, not only they are inspired from my own experience of life, but there is a lot of experience that I do and that don't, you know, that don't become films. But when they become a film is when I see something that I feel wasn't told before, which is always an illusion. Maybe it wasn't. It was told already 1,000 times, but I have that illusion that it's the first time that this story has been told, and that makes me want to do it even more.
Thank you. It was a great answer. We do have to wrap it up for the next screening, but thank you so much, Mia, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.